Morning everyone, how are we all today? Well, we look and see who's in. Scott Haynes, Robert Fowler, Stephen Bankier, Kirsty Hamilton, Tina Chalmers up there in Dundee, Ellie Butterfly Effect, Stephen Charlton, Christina Mackey, Robert LeBruce, Margaret Hitchens, Mel, Alan Arnott, Kirsty Hamilton, Scott Haynes, hi Ted Boy, Peter M, 70, Alexandra Rutherford, the other Davy, right, I think I've got you all. Oh, David McDonald. If I've missed you, I'm sorry, there's a lot of you. Can't get you on, no time for a programme. Anyway, numbers are climbing nicely, so let's get this one underway, shall we? It's Indy Truck Davy out the truck and at home in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, where it is a lovely morning, 7 degrees, sunshine and occasional cloud. Apparently, today's high will be 13 degrees. 3 more that'll be taps half time. Thank you, Mr. E. Very generous of you. Last month's money that will unit this month's going to Argyll and Butte, and then we're up into the Western Isles again. So thank you, Mr. E, that will help. All right, where were we? Aye, today's high 13 degrees, 3 more degrees, and it'll be taps half territory. Jesus Christ, wow. Anyway, wind speed 14 to 30 mile an hour, so breezy. And humidity will be at a 89%, which is in the normal range for here. Hey, sunrise this morning was 700, sunset will be 17:55, giving us a total of 10 hours and 55 hours of 10 hours and 55 minutes of daylight today, but that's here. Depending on where you are, that may vary. If you're further north, it'll be less. Okay. And there is no pollen count. So that's how it is here in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire at the moment. If you want to know how it is where you are, look out your own bloody windy. All right, first up this morning, we've got The Guardian. Let's get it up. Now, there is only 2 main subjects today, but there's 4 subjects in total, or 4 things to speak about in total. US and Israel intensify Iran attacks as conflict widens. Okay, and what it tells us is there's not going to be any talks, says Trump, and to date, the death toll is near 800 people. No doubt that's increased overnight. All right. Now, folks, put the serious heat on for a minute. And that is that you have to get this in your heads, folks. The international rules-based order is over. Israel and the United States have blown it out the window. It would appear it's now law of the jungle. The bully takes what the bully wants. And that means that we are all vulnerable to the United States. And now that Starmer and Trump are going at each other, and Trump has called the UK a silly little island, and insignificant, just like Putin, silly little island, what's to stop him from taking it? I mean, the way he was talking about Spain. Spain wouldn't let him use the air bases. So he says, we want to use the air bases, we'll just fucking take them. That's what I mean. When I mean the international rules-based order is over. We now live in a world where might is right. Next up, we'll get the Times. Times PM is no Churchill, says Trump as tensions rise. No, but he's aspiring to it. Started off his prime ministership starving children and freezing fucking granny. He then moved on to being an accomplice in a genocide. Wow. He has avoided this particular war. It's too covertly broken international law. But he's definitely on the right track to be the same fucking sort of criminal as Blair and Churchill. And as I say, he's complicit in a genocide. Churchill actually conducted a fucking genocide in India. But he isn't any Churchill. These days, men like Churchill would be prosecuted for their crimes. Next up, I've got the I. War spreads across Middle East as Trump rages at Starmer. President derides Starmer stance. Sorry, we're hang on. US President's personal attack of PM grows. This is not Churchill we're dealing with. State the fucking obvious. Even if Churchill was a young man today, the constraints that would be laid on him today, which weren't laid on him while he was running roughshod over the empire, would have meant he wouldn't be the monster he was. So, Starmer's nae Churchill. I said, no, but he's on the right fucking track. In fact, I'm sure there's more similarities than what I've actually stated, because I just threw you another one. And that is denying the democratic will of a people. Churchill put down the miners. And directed the weapons into George Square. Anyway, that was the eye. Let's get the. I think next up will be the fuel. In fact, I know next up will be the fuel. I've got it here. Which should be next? Here we go. The fuel. Starmer takes the great out of Britain. What fucking great? What great? Great Britain's across the water in France. This was Britain Minor. And it only actually applied to a small part of. Anyway, well, most of England actually. Right up at Hadrian's Wall, where we go to a place called Caledonia. Funny enough. Man. A Prime Minister who Trump mocks as no Churchill and a Navy fleet stranded in port. But we've known about the Navy fleet being stranded in port for years. There's not been any government investment in fleet renewal and fleet maintenance. And the Tories are guilty of that. And the Labour government before it, actually. Running down the armed services. Strangling the funds from them. Neglecting to make sure there's enough funds to maintain the fleet. For all there is here, 30 odd boats. Right, let's get rid of the fail. Next up will probably be the loony rag. No, it's not. It's a Tory graph. Yeah, it's a loony rag and all right enough. Starmer is no Churchill. What else did they have to say? US president attacks Starmer over lack of support for Iran war, saying he's ruining relationships. That's them talking about this so-called special relationship between the UK and the US. It's not been there since Brexit. Not been there since before Brexit, but Brexit's the main reason why it's not been there. I mean, this cunt Trump was talking up the idea of leaving the EU because we get a special deal with him, with Bojo. What's that special deal? To go with that special relationship? Oh, that's right. It was a lie. And now that we can't be used as a conduit to the European table, discarded. Same as Trump does with everything that he's finished with. Discarded. But this one was just too overtly, or would have too overtly, broken international law. But of course we've got Reform and the Tories banging the drum for war. It's not their fucking children that are going to go and fight it. You think about voting Reform or Tory. Think about your grandchildren, your children, and take something else. Sorry, put your cross somewhere else. Don't inadvertently tick the ballot paper, otherwise your vote won't count. But bigger. It's bigger for us and bad and okay. Want to drag us into an illegal war. Off you bigger them. Macron's up in the nuclear arsenal, is he? Well, as I say, the international rules order is over. And NATO's done it all. The biggest player in NATO is no longer a reliable partner. Hits off playing rogue state with its buddy Israel. Right, next up, got the Metro. So let's get Metro up. School tragedy fear as conflict grows. Now, why would there be a school tragedy fear? Civilian infrastructures are not meant to be targeted in warfare. It's quite clear in the rules of war. Schools, universities, hospitals, they're all off the park. You're not allowed to target them. Other infrastructure like roads and rail, that's fair games. But civilian infrastructure like that, you're not supposed to touch. But as we know, the Netanyahu regime likes killing kids, as we've seen in Gaza. So that'll be why there's a school fear. School tragedy fear. Because Netanyahu and his new rogue mate out playing war in the jungle, Trump, who just do not recognise international law. They don't recognise the rules of conflict either. The Geneva Convention's right out the fucking window. Shocker. Anyway, sorry, I better put that back up. We get the rest of the headline. Trump, too late to talk. And what this actually tells us is that Trump's telling him he's going to flatten the whole fucking place. including civilian infrastructure. I say it's not just the international rules-based order when it comes to international law that's out the window. The rules of conflict are also out the window. Okay, next up we have the National. Oh, we better with Scum first. The Scum has Iran war, scrambled to Cyprus as Trump blasts Kia, as no Churchill. PM sends one destroyer to defend RAF base. Then the big headline is, ship happens. One destroyer. I guess that one destroyer is equipped with anti-missile tech. Stuff you'd expect that it be on the base. Right. Now we'll take that and get a national up. We just get through the national bylines as well at the same time. A lot of them. It would appear Ferguson Marine will survive after all, contract awarded for Ferguson's. And deal struck for government to buy harbour. That's a Dorset harbour. So the deal's done. It's now in the hands of the Scottish Government. It'll be on to the Calmac to be managed. Clarity demanded over US military flights. Assurance sought from the UK government that no aircraft making a stopover in Scotland has been involved in US-Israel offensive in the Middle East. No, we're getting it. Be lucky if Starmer and the UK government knows what's in these planes that are making the transit. UK send warship to Cyprus after RAF base attacked. Rally to be held at Faslane nuclear base as war on Iran fuels safety fears. These things are all inevitable as conflict. As conflict spreads, people will show up at military bases. They'll probably show up at press week and protest at American flights coming through. The bases in England where they're landing and making their transit onwards, they'll probably be protested and all. People don't want conflict. But I can't think of a time when we weren't involved in them. Everybody thinks at the end of the Second World War, the UK stopped being involved in conflict. Fucking rubbish. It's never stopped being involved in conflict. Conflict anywhere in the world, you can bet your fucking boots the UK's grubby fingers are in it somewhere. Right, next up we've got Scotsman. It's hits off in a different direction. Demand to axe windfall tax mounts amid Iranian turmoil. Chancellor to meet with oil and gas executives. Chancellor shouldn't bother her arse. Oil and gas prices shoot up. Receipts to the Treasury go up. And at this point in time, with ailing public services, that's money that's going to be needed. So tell the oil and gas companies, fuck off. You don't like it, stop pumping. The planet will be a better place for it. Either that we take them out and we nationalise them, we pump them themselves. Thanks, Jim. Thanks very much. So, the Chancellor's under pressure because oil and gas giants don't want to pay their fucking taxes. Tell me to fuck off, Rachel. But the spring statement yesterday, folks, jam tomorrow. Jam tomorrow. We'll get to that now. Because next up, we've got the Looney Rag the Express, and it's got a blatant lie as its headline. And I'll explain why in a minute once I put it up. Okay, Chancellor accused of shock stealth grab on OAPs in spring statement. 1 million more will pay tax on state pensions. This didn't come out in the spring statement. This has been coming down the road like a fucking freight train for a long time now. The freeze on the base rate of income tax has been in place now for 6 years. It was inevitable with a treble lock over that 6 years that pensions would break through that £12,560 barrier, dragging pensioners into income tax. This was more than expected. In fact, it was spoke about. It's a year early. Because of the whopping 8 points, whatever it was, percent rise, they got a year or so back. Another 4.6 again this year. Pensions are still too low, folks. But this fiscal drag will continue until 2031, where pensioners will contribute more and more of their annual rise to income tax. But we knew it was coming. It was inevitable. When the fiscal freeze went on, the state pension was up at 11,800 odd quid. Inflation was always going to make it break that barrier, 26, 27. That actually happened at 25. When HMRC put a statement out, says, well, they're going to come to try and claim 50 pence off everybody. Now we're up in the pounds measure. Only a couple of pound a pensioner, but it's a lot of pensioners. That's 2 million quid. HMRC is going to collect. But the reason why that headline is a blatant lie with it being a stealth grab, because we've fucking known about it since 2021. We have known about the freeze on the entry level for tax since 2021. It was only supposed to last a couple of years, a fiscal grab. But it was extended to 2026. And guess who's just extended it to 2031 in our first budget? Rachel for accounts. It's a tax grab by the state. As that entry level stays still, but we all get pay rises, the state collects more. Unfortunately for the pensioners, they broke through that barrier because of the triple lock. Now they pay income tax on their pensions. But as I say, the reason why that's a lie is we've known it's coming. We've known it was coming. This was the inevitable outcome of what happened in 21 and 20. I think it was 23 was extended, 24. It was extended to 26. This was inevitable. Jesus. But you can tell who it is that rag is supposed to appeal to. That rag's supposed to appeal to the idiots. The rest of them have known about the fiscal drag since it was put in place. We also could project forward what was going to happen with certain incomes. And that tells us that by 26, 27, the pensioners would be dragged into tax. As I say, it happened earlier because they got a whopping big 8% rise a couple of years ago or a year ago when the inflation rate was through the fucking roof. So it arrived early. But for that rag to think we didn't know about it, maybe ex-readers have got fucking no enough intelligence to be able to remember 2021. Jesus Christ. Okay. Next up, we'll get the Herald. Let's get the Herald up. Defiant Reeves shrugs off downgrade in Tory attack. What is there to say? You know, Chancellor face down, blow to spring statement. And that was at the end of her statement, she announced that the OBR had just downgraded growth again. Flatline, as it has been for the last decade. Flatline. If it wasn't for Easter and Christmas, Halloween and Valentine's Day, the economy would be fucking dead. Absolute flatline. But as I say, it wasn't an inspiring spring speech. More jam tomorrow. But you've got to, I mean, the brass neck on the Tories. You know, Oz, Rachel and Starmer are doing is trying to look at a long-term programme that might get them out of this fucking mess, which was created by the Tories. You couldn't make it up. No, you could. So the Tories rip us out of the biggest market or our biggest marketing partner or closest market as partners. And they blame Labour for the fucking the outcome. Who didn't see that coming? Who didn't see the Tories heading for the hills? Yeah. But no, the ones with brass necks are still in Parliament, blaming somebody else for their fucking mess. Pattern here. Tories blame Labour, Labour blame Tory. Two cheeks of the same arse as far as I can see. Stephen, I know about the council tax. Talking about it, Dave and I were talking about it on Monday's show. I'd added in that North Lanarkshire have voted for a 7% council tax. Right. But aye, yeah, that's a brass neck in it. Brilliant. Really brilliant. Right, let's get that done. Next up's their Rancid. And we don't put their Rancid up. The Rancid's on a worse on a crime story. Now, what's a crime story? Shock and disgust over early release. Double killer back on streets. Thug struck as a schoolboy, then killed a granddad 20 years later. And this guy's name was Victor, Andrew Victor. Quite a chunky lad, bald head. Imagine a skin head in your head. That's what a guy looks like. All right. Sorry for stereotyping skinheads, but he looks like the cartoon the cartoon thug, you know. Big round face, no hair, chunky big fella. Okay, better get this over with. Let Reagan Week take over the airwaves. So all I've got left for you is the Star, and the Star has been actually pretty well on point when it comes to politics this week. So it has. The Star has been pretty much on point when it comes to politics this week. So let's get it up. Middle East crisis, panic at the pumps. Apparently, people are rushing to the local petrol stations to fill up their tanks before the price of petrol goes up pennies in the pound. Can't be asked for that. I'll just get my petrol when I go to the petrol station. Doesn't matter if it's 126 as it is at the moment or 136. I've got to fucking buy it. Otherwise, my wee vroom vroom doesn't go anywhere. So this is nonsense. So it is. Rushing to the pumps to try and save a couple of pence for next week. Next week comes, or the end of the month comes, you're still going to have to retank your car. So it's a fucking pointless exercise. Pointless exercise. So I'll just get my petrol when I need it. Because it doesn't matter what the fucking price is. I've got to buy it. So people out there, stop this nonsense. Just stop it. It's daft. Man, this fucking society we live in, this keeping up with the Joneses and consumer society we live in, is it driving people to the point where they're that fucking desperate that they need to save pennies in the pound? Inverclyde, 8% rise. I'll have a rundown for you tomorrow, probably. And the Two Davies. It's that time of year where we do the council tax thing, isn't it? Right, that's it for now. Young Reagan a week will be already gone live, I think. So I better get off the air. Thanks very much to everyone who contributed today to the Food Bank Fund. Thanks to the moderators for modding. Hit the like button and away out the door, please, folks. There was 154 we're watching. Should be able to get the 100 mark, please. The 140 there at the moment. Hit the like and away out the door, please. And eyes on the prize. The prize is the 2026 Scottish election and an SNP majority.